Welcome, and thank you for tuning in. You're listening to the Beyond 50 radio program. I'm Daniel Davis. On the program today, we're bringing back a wonderful guest who's going to share with us something that I think you're going to find very, very intriguing. That is the teachings of one Ilchi Lee. His newest book is I've Decided to Live 120 Years. Now imagine that as a goal. Now if you knew that you were going to live to be 120 years old, what kind of decisions would you make? Would there be things in your lifestyle that you would actually change to know that you would want to have the kind of vibrant energy and spirit that you would like to have when you're in those age times? We're going to find out about newfound purposes to live to be 120 years old as we study and learn about Ilchi Lee's ways of ancient secret to longevity that is based on Sundo, which is a traditional Korean system of mind-body training. One of his meditation exercises, you can release the soul from a weighty baggage that has been collecting over the years. The benefits of devoting the second half of life from age 60 to 120 to the betterment of earth and mankind. I'd like to welcome to the Beyond 50 radio program today our guest, Dr. Fatima Bustos Choi. Dr. Bustos Choi, thank you for being back on the program today.
Good morning, Daniel, and thank you for having me back.
Now, this is very exciting when you throw out the opportunity for people to think to themselves, 120 years old, okay? Geez, man, is that even possible, first of all? And if it is, what am I supposed to do about the decisions that I've made now that lead me to feel and be the way that I am?
Well, I think that's a really profound and good question because many times my experience is that we as a people, we want to live, right? And don't want to die. I certainly want to live and not ready to die. However, we hardly think about how long we want to live or can live. We live our daily lives as if we are never going to die, yet we all know too well that we will. Thus, we avoid thinking about, how long we want to live or can live, because I think subconsciously it would mean thinking about our death. So to make a choice to live a long life is a profound decision, and it means that we are taking responsibility for how long we want to live. And I know for me, if I may share my example, when Ilchi Lee first asked us, are you going to live to 120? And I thought to myself, I didn't really raise my hand. I was a little hesitant because I wasn't convinced at that time that was possible for me. But when he shared to us why he chose to live 120 years, and of course there are no guarantees, but just that making that choice, he said he made that choice because he has this big dream of, as you were saying earlier, saving humanity and making this world a better place. And he said, if I only have so many more years to live, I won't be able to accomplish all that. And so my decision to live to 120 gives me an opportunity to plan for that and to work towards that. And at the end of that 120 years, I will feel like my life was meaningful. And when he said that, it was like an arrow that touched me in the heart. And I go, I should do that too. I want to do that too. I am here because I have a purpose. And if I were to live only 5 years from now, 10 years from now, I don't think I'll be able to do everything that I want to do, not just for myself, but certainly my dream of also helping towards Ilchi Lee's dream of changing this world and making it a better place. So I think making that choice certainly means that we are taking responsibility. We are more mindful about our lives and how we live each and every day. And it also means, at least for me, that we value life, and we're going to do everything we can to be grateful for it and to live it to its fullest for ourselves and for other people and for the earth. Yeah.
You know, and when you think about it, too, when it comes to living or wanting to live to be 120 years, let's take a look at, for instance, the social paradigm of which a lot of people in America and maybe even in the industrialized world live by. When we finally get to that point that we're in our 50s, this is what advertising would tell us. You know, have you saved for retirement? Are you going to have the kind of health that would ensure that you're going to enjoy this part of your life? So in other words, most of the messages concern really the fear of getting older. Yeah. They remind us that, okay, our time is now finite. Yeah. And to me it seems that's a tremendous waste of psychic time. Let's talk about the way Ilchi Lee perceives and looks at this part of life.
I think that's an excellent point. And because that's so, like you're saying, that only, I mean, it is a waste of how we plan and we think about the second phase of our lives, but it's also very fear-based. And when it's fear-based like that, people, instead of having more energy, will actually have diminished energy. And so with Ilchi Lee, he is the way he expresses this notion of 120 years in his book is one of hope, is one of inspiration, and it's one of great anticipation, actually, because if and he says the way to do that is reflect on the first part of your life and then design the second one. Reflect, ask yourself some questions, honestly answer those questions in terms of your accomplishments, as well as areas that you, in a way, regret you haven't done. And so now, as you look at the second half of your life, you have so much more experiences, you have accomplished a lot, and you have so much more to build upon, like a springboard to now create you have less encumbrances. You know, if you have a family, chances are your children are grown. If you were in a career, chances are you have accomplished what you wanted to in your career. And so now you really have, in a way, discretionary time and hopefully some discretionary finances, but most importantly, a lot of your talent, treasure, and time that you may not have had as much before, now you do. And now you have the liberty, you have the freedom to design it and create the life that you truly want versus the first half, which was perhaps we lived that life according to what people wanted, how people wanted us to live our lives. And I think that's a major shift, at least I know for me. Since I'm in my second half of my life, I I read the book every day. I would choose a page and I get my inspiration. And so truly I feel like I am at the prime of my life. And that's the way Ilchi Lee describes it in his book. You know, you are now at the prime of your life. You have so much more to give, so much more to share, and therefore so much more joy in this act of new creation. And, of course, he provides some very practical, tips in order to make the second half of our lives or the second part of our lives more meaningful and more fulfilling, more healthy, happier, and more peaceful.
Now, I know that he shares wonderful exercises in his book, I've Decided to Live 120 Years, but, I was going to certainly talk about what you were kind of putting icing on the cake about the second half of life. It's funny how we actually think of our lives in two parts. There's young and then we're old. And most of the young seem to be concerned with, well, you're old now, and it's like, did you realize that one day, if you're lucky, you're going to get here? First of all. And it's funny, but the truth is, one of the things you were saying that is so true, and we've doing this show as long as we have, we're talking about 15 going on 16 years now.
Wow.
Is that one gleaning awareness comes through, and that is that we spend the first half of our lives, and this is funny about youth, they love being young, and they kind of abhor it sometimes, the idea of older people. Young girls don't want to be around older guys. They're just not their age. But then again, they say at the same time, but then again, the older guys have it going on. They seem to have money and responsibility, things the younger guys don't. And then, younger guys, older women, well, they're just older women, and as, you're too concerned with the physicality of what a person looks like rather than really looking at the person and how seasoned somebody becomes when they're young. But what I wanted to point out, that kind of went off track just a bit, but not too much, is that the first half, if we're going to put it that way, of our lives seem to be concerned on pleasing others. In other words, we're looking more toward being accepted, approved of, things like that. And we get to this point, and I think this happens, and they call this, this midlife crisis. And I think what I've come to know from the years of doing this show is that midlife crisis comes from the point that we become confused at a point in our lives. We have done everything we feel in our power to the degree that we've followed the advice of other people, whether it's our parents, whether it's being in school, trying to get those good grades, whether it's in the workplace, for instance, and trying to get those promotions and do all the right things that we're told to do, and somehow we get to a point we feel lost. We don't have that fulfillment we would have hoped to have had by reaching from the outside of ourselves and getting these things from other people. And so we finally say, the hell with it. We just throw it out the window and say, I'm doing things on my own. And then all of a sudden, because we do this, all of a sudden there's this fulfillment, this sort of, wow, this is totally cool. I wished I had done this when I was in my 20s.
Right.
And so you can see how the enthusiasm is there, but then at the same time you start stressing over the fact that, look at all that time I wasted doing all those things in my earlier years. And then you hear most people say, if I only knew then what I know now. But now you know it. What are you going to do about it?
Exactly. In the 120, in the book, I've decided to live 120 years. Ilchi Lee explains it so, I think, so well, in that the first, and I like your observation of dividing our lives into first half and second half. Ilchi Lee says in the book that the first half of life, we sort of just follow kind of this roadmap laid out for us by, of course, our, parents, our family, and then, the education system, and then society, the workplace, and so forth. We kind of follow that path almost, automatically, because either that's what our parents did and they want us to do the same, or society says this is what you should do, and so forth. And he says that path actually is a path of success. So, we consider ourselves successful when we have achieved this, when we have achieved that, when we achieved this promotion, this car, this house, this, all of those, as you were saying, focus so much more on the material aspect of our existence. And so it's that first part of our lives is geared towards success. And he's saying that now you have a chance to not necessarily focus on success anymore, because chances are you have achieved it, but shift your consciousness to completion. And that's the focus of I've decided to live 120 years. Completing, completion. And in this case, completion of your mission, completion of your dream, completion of your vision. And that mission, that vision, that dream is a dream that's not just about yourself. You've done that. But now this dream must be one that is of benefit to other people, to society, to humanity. And that is such a shift from the me to we and to society. Now, I think that's where it becomes very hopeful, because as you were saying, I think about the midlife crisis too, and whether let's just say a guy decides now to buy this convertible that he's been wanting all along, or to date this young girl, and then there's a sense of freedom in doing whatever I want to do, kind of thing. But let's face it, after a while, even that fades. After a while, even that doesn't, satisfy. It doesn't feel, there's no fulfillment, because they're all kind of fleeting, and they're still, in a way, an extension of the first. And so shifting our consciousness to, why am I here on this earth anyway? What was I supposed to do? What is my contribution? That's a shift in consciousness.
So now, if you could, for our listeners, let's go ahead and share a couple of exercises Ilchi Lee has in his book, I've Decided to Live 120 Years, that listeners today could actually take away and start saying, I'm going to apply some of this and see what happens.
Okay, well, in the I've Decided to Live 120 Years, Ilchi Lee talks about developing 3 powers. Okay, the first is physical power, and that's in a way self-explanatory, making ourselves healthy and strong. And so the first thing that comes to mind, of course, is exercise. But we also have a notion that for exercise to make a difference or to be impactful, it has to be strenuous and it has to be long. Well, not necessarily. Of course, it helps, but not necessarily. And so Ilchi Lee came up with this 1-minute exercise, and we actually even have an app for that. 1-minute exercise, 1 minute every hour on the hour. And whatever that hour that you designate, it could be top of the hour, it could be at the half hours, but there are many exercises, for example, that you would do in 1 minute. For example, for me, the first thing I do in the morning is I do bicycle. So Ilchi Lee showed that you sit on the floor, sit at the edge of your bed, and pretend you're bicycling. So you're moving your legs, and you put your arms forward and bicycle for 1 minute. You can go forward the first 30 seconds and then backward the next 30 seconds. So I do that first thing in the morning to wake me up. Sometimes I do squats for 1 minute. So I set my timer, I do squats for 1 minute, and then I don't have to do this now because I've been doing it for a while. But in the beginning, I would set my phone to ring every hour, and I have a set of exercises. So whether it's bicycle, whether it's squats, lunges, sometimes I simply do body tapping for 1 minute, or chest opening and side stretches. So those are examples of 1 minute exercises. Push-ups are great. So I do 1 minute push-ups. Sometimes I can't get on the floor, but let's say I'm standing or I'm at my desk, I would stand up, lean against my desk, and do standing push-ups. Sometimes I lean against the wall, like I'm sitting on a chair. There's no chair, but I bend my knees. I press my back against the wall, my spine, and I sit there. It's called wall sit for 1 minute. So I suggest getting the app, the 1 minute app, and it can guide you through different exercises that you can do. Even if it's just 1 minute, it makes a whole lot of difference, because in that 1 minute, at least my experience, and I know other people I know who are doing this have said it, it does change your energy. It wakes me up if I'm kind of getting like towards the end of the day, or I'm working on something, kind of practicing. I stop. I just stop and I do the 1 minute, and I feel refreshed. It's amazing. Just that 1 minute. I don't know. Did I give you enough examples?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And the other thing I was considering, too, is one of the things that can be considered for people is that you have to give yourself hopes and dreams, something to put in front of yourself. And
yes.
I think sometimes, as I was suggesting earlier in the program, that we get concerned on getting older, rather than putting hopes and dreams in front of us. Tell us how important that is.
Yes,
especially for the brain.
Absolutely. Our brain is actually designed to have hopes and dreams and challenges. Our brain is designed in that way. In fact, when we don't have hope, we don't have dreams, we don't have challenges, our brain kind of goes in this sleep mode, and then it starts to be passive, and it starts to, in a way, become hopeless. And so giving ourselves, whether it's a big dream or a little dream, enables us to, number one, we produce happy hormones, serotonin and dopamine, number one, okay, because now we're looking forward to something. And it could be something to look forward to within the next 30 days, within the next 90 days, within the next year, within the next 2 years and 3 years. And so these hopes and dreams could be certainly something that, especially if there's something that you didn't get to do in the first half, and say, okay, this time I'm really going to do it. And this time, no matter what, this is what I'm going to do. Now suddenly you feel a surge of energy. You feel like a great motivation, a reason, a purpose for getting up in the morning, and a purpose for being healthy, in fact. So these hopes and dreams, the one thing I would like to add to that is have a component, these hopes and dreams have a component of doing something widely beneficial for other people. And when we add that component this time around, that's when these dreams take on a new and more profound meaning for us, and of course for the people who are, recipients of these dreams. And so it is vital that we give ourselves hopes and dreams, and that these hopes and dreams can become new sources of happiness for us. And in expanding our consciousness to include other people, then just that thought alone, and when we see other people benefiting from that, definitely adds to our health, adds to our happiness, and adds to us living longer, amazingly enough.
It's fascinating to listen to this and to realize just how much we can begin to refocus ourselves in a way that's meaningful. And
yes.
One of the things that I think people should come to understand, too, you mentioned it earlier in the pursuit of material things. That's fine. Go and enjoy that stuff. But ask yourself the question, am I gaining these things because of approval and keeping up with an image that I was told I was supposed to have? I mean, really begin to question about the actions you take for what you pursue. Now, he talks also about letting go of attachments to find peace. Let's talk about how you can go about doing that, deciding, what do I get rid of or let go of?
Yeah. Yes. That's, I think that letting go of attachments to find peace, I know for me, takes on at least different levels, because we have so many attachments, I think. And we have physical attachments, and that is our possessions, our achievements, titles, homes and so forth. So, or physical possessions. And then we have attachments to experiences. And often it's the negative or traumatic experiences, experiences where people may have hurt us, experiences where, especially regrets, we have a tendency to hold on to these experiences and these emotions. And even though they're past so many years ago, somehow we relive them. And we keep playing the tapes, and so we are carrying them with us. And so letting go of attachments, we have to really be honest with ourselves. What am I attached to? What's the clue for that is when we have a hard time letting go of it. Whether it is, like I said, whether it's the possessions we have acquired. Can we say, I really don't need this anymore, or I really am willing to give this up. I think other people can use this. I think other people can need this more than I. And letting go of clutter, letting go of a lot of things we kind of hoarded through the years. And, it might be clothes that you haven't even worn in 3 years, but still in the closet. I do have those, and so I have to what needs to go? What needs to go? If I had to downsize, what needs to go? Because we probably, out of 100 things that we have in our homes, we only probably need 10%. And 90% are more nice things to have, but not must-haves. So letting go of those not only frees us at the physical level, but also at the spiritual level. And then letting go of attachments of what should have been, what could have been, and just forgiving, forgetting, letting go, making the heart lighter and more peaceful is what gives us that peace and what enables us to continue on this journey in a very light and free way. And then I think that the more that we can identify these things of what we need to even stop doing and let go, then we can have that freedom to design this next part of our lives in a more creative way and in a more fulfilling way.
Now, how important is nature in all of this?
I think it is so key, and in fact, there's a group of people in northern part of Pakistan, and their average life, Daniel, is 120 years. They live in this mountainous region of northern Pakistan, and one of their key, secrets is they are in nature from sunrise to sunset. They're working in the fields, and so they're very active. They eat natural, foods. They drink from the waters from the glaciers. And so they are truly, truly one with nature. And so being in nature, not only being in nature, but being with nature, being one with nature, is I am finding for myself too, because most of my life I've been confined in buildings, in the corporate world. It would be like going out and having a picnic is in the first part of my life was such a treat, and it's or a luxury. And so now that I have more opportunities to be out in nature, be one with nature, be one with the trees, be one with the birds, I find that it's so exhilarating, it's so stress-releasing, it's so joyful, and it gives me another dimension of a source of life, which actually is the root cause of life anyway, is Mother Earth and Mother Nature. So being close to nature is fundamental, and it's key, and to make it part of our practice. Not only because it's healthy, we need vitamin D from the sun to be healthy, to strengthen our bones, but at the emotional and at the spiritual level, there's nothing that can give us more joy than really being in nature and being with nature. So I highly recommend, if it isn't part of the regimen now because of a busy life, somehow find time, even if it's only 10 minutes, 15 minutes, to be out and sit somewhere where one can receive the rays of the sun, one can feel the breeze, one can look at the clouds, one can look at a tree, maybe even embrace a tree, just breathe the fresh air, and these simple acts of being one with nature can help us so tremendously. Yeah.
Now, tell us about Earth Village in New Zealand.
Earth Village in New Zealand. I have had the good fortune of visiting Earth Village in New Zealand 3 times now, and I was there when it was first so new and so hardly anything there the first time I went, although Ilchi Lee built some wonderful swings, and you can swing right above the river. And now it's about 365 acres. Mostly it's forest. And when one goes to Earth Village, Ilchi Lee designed it so that in this village we can give the space for people to truly, truly, deeply commune and be one with nature. The thing is, you can't help it. But have you been to New Zealand, Daniel?
No, I haven't.
It's really, truly, how people have those bucket lists. Definitely one to be put on that list because it's one of the purest places on earth where Mother Nature is pure. And where we have Earth Village in New Zealand, the forest is so vibrant. You can the minute you take the path, and Ilchi Lee in fact built 120 steps, stairs consisting of 120 steps, and for each decade of the 120 years, there's he put like a meditation sign, like words of wisdom. But Earth Village was designed for people to be able to experience Mother Earth and ourselves as citizens of this earth to the fullest possible way of being one and opening our hearts. I know for me, each time I've gone to New Zealand to Earth Village, that was my experience. I didn't intend it, but somehow that was always what I experienced, is my heart just opened in ways that I could not even think of. And I just filled with deep, deep, deep gratitude. So it's a place for us, for as many people to come and be one with nature, commune with nature, be nature, and be nature. And then also a place to develop future leaders of the earth, future earth citizens who have the earth as the central value. Because that is the one thing we have in common. The earth as the central value, our souls as the central value, and shifting from, the materialism and not just so much spirituality, but wholeness. And so, the plan is to have in this earth village place where we can develop our physical power, we can develop our earth power, our heart power, and our brain power. So I highly, highly recommend it. Please visit it because it's the perfect place to experience our true nature as spirits and as earth citizens. Mm.
Wow, it's so amazing how simple it is, but it actually takes a little bit of work, and mainly that work is changing the way you think about things, isn't it?
Yes. That is absolutely right. Mm-hmm.
Now, how can people find out about, the work of Ilchi Lee, his book that we've been talking about today, things like that?
Yes. So Ilchi Lee has his own Facebook. So ilchilee.com, and then, or just you can www.ilchilee.com Facebook. And then, of course, as far as the book, we do have live120yearsbook.com. So we have our own website for the book itself, and so people can read a lot of, in a way, passages from the book, Ilchi Lee's work, and then our online distribution, which is changeyourenergy.com. So these are, and you can follow Ilchi Lee on Twitter also. He's many times I check what he's saying on Twitter, and of course Facebook and ilchilee.com, and then live120yearsbook.com.
Well, thank you so much, Fatima, for being on the program today and sharing the kind of things we should be doing more frequently, having enthusiasm about the fact that we have a day in front of us, and what to do about that since we do. We certainly don't know when that time's coming, do we?
That is so true. And I think, like you were saying earlier, Daniel, let's focus more on what's already in front of us, what is looking forward to what life has to offer, and let us design the second half of our lives in such a way that we can live the life we truly want, and a life that has meaning, that has purpose, and a life where we can be healthier, happier, and more peaceful. Thank you so much for being on your show again. I truly enjoy you and your program, and I appreciate being here again.
Well, thank you so much. It's been a wonderful pleasure to have you back on the program.
Thank you, Daniel. Have a wonderful day.
You too.
120 more years, right?
You got it. Thank you so much, Fatima.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye now.
You bet. We want to thank you, the listeners out there, for joining us. To get to 120 years or better, you can also visit us at beyond50radio.com. That is the number 50. We do encourage you to sign up for our weekly e-newsletter and keep up to date with what's going on in the world of Beyond 50 as well as our upcoming shows. I'm Daniel Davis. Thank you for tuning in. This is the Beyond 50 radio program, and remember, live your day past halfway.